I stand in my parents' dining room. The same room where I celebrated every childhood birthday, every family dinner, every fake moment of togetherness. The smell of polished wood and my mom's expensive perfume still fills the air, but everything feels different now. Colder, heavier. My dad sits at the head of the table, phone in hand, barely looking at me. My mom, perfectly dressed as always, has her arms folded tight, her face a mix of control and disgust. And me, I'm 5 months pregnant and completely alone. You've embarrassed this family, my dad says, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut through steel. We gave you everything. Your degree, your home, your connections. And this is how you repay us. He gestures toward my belly like it's something dirty, something shameful. I swallow hard, my hands shaking. Dad, it's not like that. Liam and I. Lim. My mom interrupts, rolling her eyes. The boy with no real job and no pedigree. You threw away your future for some startup dreamer. She spits out the words like they taste bad. You're not thinking, Haley. I glance between them, feeling smaller by the second. I love him. He loves me. That should be enough. My dad laughs, but there's no humor in it. Love doesn't pay for anything. Love doesn't buy respect. He leans back, folding his hands like he's already made up his mind. You're an adult now. You made your choice. Don't expect our help when the consequences arrive. My chest tightens. What are you saying? He looks me dead in the eye. You're no longer our responsibility. Pack your things and go. I blink, waiting for him to take it back, but he doesn't. My mom doesn't even look up from her glass of wine. You'll regret this, she says flatly. You'll see what happens when the real world stops caring. That was it. No shouting, no second chances. Just silence and the sound of my world falling apart. I left that night with 2 suitcases, a folder of ultrasound photos, and the kind of heartbreak that doesn't show on your face right away. Liam picked me up from the curb outside, his old truck idling under the streetlight. He didn't say anything at first. He just reached over and took my hand, his thumb brushing against my palm like he was afraid I might shatter. You're sure? He asked softly. They're really done with you. I nodded, tears finally spilling down. They made it pretty clear. He sighed, started the engine, and pulled me close. Then we'll figure it out. You and me. Okay? The weeks that followed were hard in ways I hadn't expected. I'd grown up in a world where everything was always taken care of. Groceries appeared, bills vanished, problems were handled by someone else. Suddenly, it was just us, living in a small one-bedroom apartment above a coffee shop Liam's friend owned. I took a job doing remote design work, and he kept grinding at his startup, working 16-hour days trying to keep it afloat. We lived on cheap takeout, secondhand furniture, and faith. But the fear never really left me. My parents didn't call, didn't text, didn't ask about the baby. It was like I'd been erased. Then, one afternoon, Liam came home late, looking pale. My mom wants to meet you, he said carefully, like it might break me. I froze. His mom, Evelyn Carter, was practically American royalty. She and her husband owned Carter Industries, one of those companies everyone knows but no one really understands. Billionaires. Old money. Real power. She knows about. I trailed off, resting a hand on my belly. He nodded. She knows. And she wants to talk. I wanted to say no, to hide, to protect what little peace I had left. But Liam looked so hopeful, and something in me whispered that maybe this was a chance. A terrifying one, but still a chance. We met them the following weekend at their estate. If you could even call it that. The driveway alone was longer than the street we lived on. The house looked like a modern palace, all glass and stone and quiet wealth. Evelyn greeted us at the door, perfectly put together, elegant but intimidating. Her husband, Richard, stood beside her, polite but unreadable. So, she said after a long pause, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. You're the girl who's turning my son into a father. I didn't know what to say. Every instinct told me I didn't belong there, not in my thrift, store dress and worn flats. But Liam's hand found mine again, steadying me. I love your son, I said simply. And I don't expect anything from you. Evelyn raised an eyebrow, clearly not used to people speaking to her like that. Then, slowly, she nodded. "We'll see." The dinner was painfully formal. Every word felt like a test. They asked questions about my background, my family, my plans. I answered honestly, even when it hurt. When Richard asked where my parents were, I told him the truth. They'd disowned me. For a moment, the room went quiet. Evelyn's expression softened just a little. "Then I suppose you'll have to make your own family," she said, her tone strange. Half pity, half respect. That night, as we drove home, I finally let myself exhale. "I don't think she hates me," I whispered. Liam smiled faintly. "She doesn't. She just wants to understand you. Trust me, that's her way of showing interest." I leaned back in my seat, exhausted but lighter somehow. Maybe, just maybe, being disowned wasn't the end of everything. Maybe it was the beginning of something new. Something I could build myself. The weeks after that dinner were some of the strangest of my life. Evelyn Carter didn't exactly welcome me with open arms, but she didn't turn her back on me either. She started calling sometimes. Short, polite conversations that always sounded more like business than family. She'd ask things like, "How's your health?" Or, "Have you been taking your supplements?" But under her composed tone, I could tell she was watching me carefully, testing if I was worthy of her son and their name. Liam told me not to worry, that his mom was just like that with everyone. "She takes a while to warm up," he said, smiling as he rubbed my belly. "But she will. You're impossible not to love." I wanted to believe him, even though a part of me still felt like an outsider looking through the glass of their perfect world. Money has a way of making people behave differently, and I saw that up close. One weekend, Evelyn sent a driver to bring us to their home again. This time for a family brunch. The table looked like something out of a magazine. Crystal glasses, silver cutlery, and food so fancy I didn't even know what half of it was. I was nervous the entire time, trying not to drop anything, or say something stupid. Evelyn's friends were there too, women with diamonds the size of marbles, all talking about charity galas and vacation homes. I smiled politely, sipping my orange juice, while they glanced at my belly like it was a scandal they didn't quite understand. Liam noticed, squeezed my hand under the table, and whispered, "You're doing great." But later, when we got home, I cried in the shower. Not because anyone had said something cruel, but because I felt invisible. Like no matter how much I tried, I'd always be the girl who got pregnant, instead of the woman I wanted to be. Then, one morning, everything shifted. I was home alone, working on a design project, when my phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. Just seeing her name made my stomach twist. "Haley," she said when I answered, "I need a favor." I almost laughed. Evelyn Carter asking me for a favor. But I listened. She explained that her company's PR team was working on a charity event for young mothers. Something about raising awareness and support for women who'd been abandoned or cut off. "I thought you might have perspective," she said, her voice softer than usual. "Would you be willing to share your story?" Privately, of course. I froze. The idea of telling my story, the humiliation, the rejection, everything my parents had done, felt terrifying. But then I thought about it more. Maybe this was a way to turn all that pain into something that mattered. So, I said yes. A week later, I found myself sitting in a glass-walled office at Carter Industries, facing Evelyn and her PR team. They asked me to talk about what it was like to start over, to rebuild without family support. I spoke honestly. I told them about the fear, the nights of counting dollars, the way people look at you differently when you don't have a safety net. When I finished, the room was quiet. Then Evelyn said, "That was powerful, Haley." And for the first time since I met her, she looked at me not as a liability, but as a person. After that, things changed. She invited me to more family gatherings, but they felt different now. She'd ask my opinion, include me in conversations, even smile sometimes in that quiet, knowing way. I could tell she respected that I didn't crumble. Meanwhile, Liam's startup started gaining traction. Investors were finally paying attention, and the long nights were starting to mean something. We didn't talk much about my parents. But sometimes I'd catch myself wondering if they ever thought about me. Or their grandchild. I doubted it. My mom had always cared more about appearances than feelings. My dad was ruled by money and pride. Still, sometimes late at night, I'd imagine them walking past a baby store or seeing a family photo online and wondering if that could have been them. When I hit my 7th month, Evelyn threw a baby shower. I almost said no, afraid it would feel like another performance, but Liam insisted. "She wants to do this for you," he said. "Let her." And honestly, it was beautiful. She transformed her garden into something straight out of a dream. Flowers, music, laughter. For once, I didn't feel like the poor girl who didn't belong. I felt like part of a family. At the end of the day, Evelyn pulled me aside. "I know we didn't start well," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "But I want you to know. Whatever happens, you'll never be alone again. Not while you're with us." I didn't know what to say. So I just hugged her. And in that moment, all the bitterness, the pain from being disowned, it didn't vanish, but it loosened its grip. For the first time, I felt like maybe I was where I was supposed to be. Later that night, lying beside Liam, I whispered, "Do you think my parents will ever forgive me?" He thought for a moment. "Maybe someday. But you don't need their forgiveness to be happy." I nodded, feeling the baby kick softly beneath my hand. "No," I said quietly. "I think I just needed to forgive myself." When I went into labor, it felt like my whole world was splitting open. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. Liam was by my side the entire time, holding my hand, whispering that I was strong, that everything would be okay. The delivery wasn't easy. The pain came in waves that made time disappear. But when I heard my baby's first cry, all of it, the fear, the rejection, the loneliness, faded into something unrecognizable. They placed my son in my arms, tiny and warm, with a tuft of dark hair, and the smallest fingers I'd ever seen. I named him Noah. For the first few days, it was just us and Liam, wrapped up in that quiet, fragile bubble of new life. Evelyn visited the hospital, bringing flowers and a soft blanket embroidered with Noah's name. She didn't say much, but when she looked at him, I saw something soften in her eyes again. Richard came too, shaking Liam's hand and congratulating him like a proud father. It was strange, comforting, even, to have their support when my own parents didn't even know I'd given birth. I didn't plan on telling them, not at first. But about a week after coming home, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Haley." It was my mother's voice. Cold, careful, unfamiliar. My chest tightened instantly. "How did you get this number?" I asked quietly. "Doesn't matter," she said. "Your father told me. We heard from someone in your fiancé's circle. You had the baby." There was a long pause, and then she added, "Is it true?" I stared down at Noah, asleep in my arms. "Yes," I said. "His name is Noah." My mother didn't respond right away. I could hear her breathing, like she was deciding whether to hang up or not. "I see," she said finally. "I hope you're managing." The way she said it, like she was talking to a stranger, cut deeper than any insult could. "We're fine," I said, my voice shaking a little. "Actually, better than fine." "That's good," she replied, though it didn't sound like she meant it. Then, before hanging up, she said, "Your father doesn't want me calling again. I just wanted to know you're alive." And that was it. The line went dead. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. I didn't cry. Not right away. But something inside me cracked again. Not the same kind of hurt as before. This was quieter, more final. It was the moment I realized that whatever part of me still hoped for reconciliation had finally died. Evelyn must have noticed I wasn't myself. Because a few days later, she showed up unannounced with a tray of food and a calm, kind of concern that caught me off guard. "You look exhausted," she said gently, sitting beside me. "Motherhood does that to us all." I tried to smile, but she saw through it. "Your mother called, didn't she?" she asked, not unkindly. I nodded. "She just wanted to know if I was still breathing." Evelyn sighed. "I know that pain, Haley. My parents weren't kind to me either when I married Richard. They thought he wasn't good enough. That surprised me. Seriously? She smiled faintly. Yes, I was supposed to marry someone else. But love has a way of making you brave. And, apparently, disobedient. We both laughed quietly. You'll be okay, she said after a moment. Sometimes, the family we build means more than the one we're born into. Over the next few months, things slowly started to settle. Liam's company finally took off. His app got major funding. And suddenly, everything we'd struggled through started to make sense. We moved into a bigger place, closer to his parents, but still humble enough to feel like ours. I kept freelancing, balancing motherhood and work, finding little pockets of myself again. Noah grew fast. Every new smile, every tiny milestone reminded me that the best thing that ever happened to me came from the worst moment of my life. But the world has a way of circling back when you least expect it. One afternoon, I was out with Noah when I ran into one of my mom's old friends. She recognized me immediately, her eyes going wide. "Haley," she said, almost gasping. "Oh my goodness, look at you! And this must be my son," I said simply. "Noah." She smiled awkwardly but couldn't help adding, "Your parents talk about you sometimes, you know. They regret how things happened." My heart stopped. "They do?" "Well, mostly your mother. Your father's still stubborn, but she's softer now. They've seen photos, heard about how well you and Liam are doing." "Photos?" I asked, confused. "From where?" She shrugged. "The papers. The charity features. Your mother keeps tabs, even if she won't admit it." I didn't know whether to feel angry or relieved. They disowned me, yet they couldn't stop watching from afar. That night, I told Liam about it. He listened quietly, then said, "If they ever come around, that's their choice. But you don't owe them anything." I nodded, realizing he was right. Still, a part of me wondered what I'd do if they showed up one day. Would I forgive them? Could I? Evelyn's words echoed in my mind. The family we build means more than the one we're born into. Maybe that was true. But blood has a strange pull, even when it's tainted by disappointment. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in my mother's handwriting. Inside was a short note. "I saw the interview you did for Evelyn's foundation. You looked happy. That's all I ever wanted." Mom. I stared at it for a long time, unsure what to feel. Anger, gratitude, closure. Maybe all of it at once. I folded the letter carefully and put it in Noah's baby book. Not because I forgave her completely, but because it was part of the story, our story. The one that had led me here, to this new kind of family. A year after Noah was born, life looked nothing like I ever imagined. Liam's company had exploded in success, part luck, part relentless effort. And though he stayed the same humble man I fell in love with, our world changed. We moved into a modern home outside the city, not nearly as massive as his parents' estate, but warm, full of sunlight, and ours. Evelyn became part of our daily life. She'd stop by to see Noah every week, bringing him toys or books, but mostly just to be there. She'd hold him and hum softly, something I never thought I'd see from the woman who once measured affection in silence and posture. Richard doted on Noah too, teaching him little things like how to balance blocks or wave hello. They loved that baby like he was the center of their universe, and for the first time, I understood what unconditional love actually looked like. Then one afternoon, something happened that I'd both dreaded and quietly expected. I was at home, reading on the couch while Noah napped, when the doorbell rang. Through the glass, I saw them. My parents. My father looked older than I remembered, his hair more gray than silver now, his posture still straight but less certain. My mother stood beside him, holding a small box, her eyes darting nervously toward the door. My heart stopped. I thought about pretending not to be home, but something in me said no. It was time. I opened the door slowly. "Haley?" my mom said, her voice trembling just a little. "You look well." My dad cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. "We didn't mean to just show up," he said stiffly. "We were nearby." I almost laughed at that. Nearby. Like they'd accidentally ended up in my neighborhood an hour from where they lived. Why are you here? I asked, my voice quiet but steady. My mother held out the box. This was yours, she said softly. I opened it and saw the old silver locket my grandmother had given me when I was 13. Inside was a tiny photo of me as a baby on one side, and now, tucked into the other slot, a new one. It was Noah. My chest tightened. You've been keeping up, I said, not quite sure how to feel. My mom nodded. I saw you in that interview for Evelyn's charity. You spoke beautifully. She looked at the floor. We were wrong, Haley. About everything. My dad shifted uncomfortably but didn't argue. You made a life for yourself, he said. Without us. I can respect that now. There it was, the apology I'd imagined 100 times. And yet, standing there, I realized I didn't need it the way I thought I would. I wasn't that desperate, scared girl anymore. I was a woman who had rebuilt her life from ashes. You hurt me, I said simply. You made me feel like love had conditions. My mom's eyes filled with tears. We were scared. We thought you were throwing your future away. You were wrong, I said. I gestured around the house. This is my future. And it's better than anything you could have planned for me. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, faintly, from the baby monitor, came Noah's sleepy cry. My mom looked up instantly. Is that him? She whispered. I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, that's Noah. May we? She asked quietly. Against every instinct, I found myself saying, sure. They followed me down the hall to Noah's room. He was standing in his crib, rubbing his eyes, curls sticking up in every direction. My mom gasped softly, her hand over her mouth. My dad just stared, like he couldn't believe this little person was real. He looks like you, my mom whispered. And a bit like Liam, I said with a small smile. He's perfect. My dad cleared his throat again, softer this time. Congratulations, Haley. For the first time in years, I believed he meant it. I let them stay a while. My mom held Noah, gently bouncing him, while humming an old lullaby I hadn't heard since childhood. My dad sat quietly, watching, his pride finally stripped of its sharp edges. When they left, my mom hugged me tightly. I can't undo what we did, she said, her voice breaking. But I want to try to make it right. I didn't promise her forgiveness. I just said, we'll see. That night, Liam came home, and I told him everything. He listened, nodding slowly, then smiled. You handled that better than I ever could have. I didn't do it for them, I said. I did it for me. And for Noah. Evelyn called the next morning. Apparently, my parents had stopped by her house after leaving ours. She didn't sound surprised. They're proud of you, she said simply. They should be. There was a pause, then she added, I'm proud of you too, Haley. You've grown into someone even I look up to. That one caught me off guard. Coming from Evelyn Carter, that meant more than anything. A year later, when Noah turned 2, both sides of the family came together for his birthday. It was awkward at first, my parents trying to make small talk with Evelyn and Richard. But eventually, something strange happened. They all laughed. The tension melted into something almost normal. Watching them, I realized that the chaos, the heartbreak, all of it had led me here. To this messy, imperfect, beautiful family I never thought I'd have. I used to think being disowned was the worst thing that could happen to me. But it turned out to be the beginning of my real life. If my parents hadn't turned me away, I might never have learned how strong I was. I might never have found a family that chose me, not because of money or appearances, but because they loved me exactly as I was. Sometimes, life doesn't fall apart. It falls into place, just in ways you don't expect. And now, when I look at Noah laughing between his grandparents, both sets of them, I finally understand something my old life never taught me. Love isn't about approval. It's about showing up, even after everything breaks. And this time, I finally have people who do.